Hello. Welcome to the War in Review. I'm TJ Goldstoff. For new viewers to the show, our news team describes and examines current events regarding the state of our nation during this Civil War. As the crazy year of 1866 comes to a close, let's take a look back on what happened this year. Last year, Civil War officially ended when Johnston's troops surrendered to Sherman in North Carolina. The North was victorious and peace was restored. I say peace because President Andrew Johnson still had the task of reconstructing the tattered South. This year, many important events took place that could alter this nation's fate forever. The President's power of the veto was put to use this year when President Johnson vetoed the Freedmen's Bureau Bill and the Civil Rights Act of 1866, even though it was overridden by Congress. This causes major tensions between the legislative and executive branch. Second, the 14th Amendment was passed by Congress. This granted full citizenship to all Negroes. It also gave the federal government the responsibility to protect the new given rights. Another important event, and our featured story tonight, were the race riots in Memphis and New Orleans. Together, almost 100 blacks were killed. The last topic, to be analyzed by our own commentator, Irfan Sarfraz, were this year's congressional elections. Now for tonight's featured story. Let's cut to New Orleans, where our reporter in the field, Lauren Hoffman, has an informational interview planned for us with an important figure who is involved with this event. Let's go to you, Lauren.
Thanks, TJ. And now for our feature story. Today we have a special guest joining us in New Orleans, the site of the race riots, which took place earlier this year. After the end of the war, many ex-Confederate soldiers found themselves trapped in a foreign environment, where their ideas were being suppressed. This anger that had built up over the years now led to violence. This past July, a group of ex-Confederate soldiers, in protest to Black American rights and fear in the change of the state constitution, decided to launch an attack on the reopening of the Constitutional Convention. This incident resulted in the deaths of 34 black men and 4 white men. We have here today ex-governor of Louisiana, George Michael Hahn, who during the incident was involved with the Radical Republicans and withstood a near-death experience. Hello, and thank you for being with us today, Mr. Hahn. Nice weather, huh?
We're inside.
Anyways, I would like to begin by asking you about the beginning of the riot. Was it anticipated, and did you see any way of preventing it?
Well, the tensions after the Civil War were prominent everywhere, and of course, whenever you have a law this radical being passed, problems are bound to appear. In terms of preventing it, it seems like after a war like this, peace is not an option.
I see, yes. During your time as governor of Louisiana, you tried to prevent secession right here from this southern state and at the same time tried hard to give the vote for the blacks. Would you consider yourself an abolitionist?
No, you fool.
What are your views on slavery and Negroes' rights?
Well, I would not consider myself an abolitionist, but I do believe they should have equal rights.
Mr. Hahn, have you heard of the new white supremacy group known as the KKK? If you have, what can you tell us about them?
I have heard the name of this group, yes, but I cannot tell you much about them. All I do know is that they have been involved in a few lynchings around the country.
Do you see the Union undergoing a moderate or fast recovery?
After a war such as this, I do believe it's going to take some time, but there is progress in the way.
What do you believe that this new era of Reconstruction stands for in American history? How do you think it will help us in the future generations?
Well, I do believe this time period in history will help as a president for future generations.
Do you, Mr. Hahn, see any resemblance between these riots and the Memphis riots?
Well, I do see a resemblance, but in terms of the groups involved, the Memphis riots were between poor Irishmen and black men, and it also caused the death of a white man, which was later to be blamed on a black man.
Thank you, Mr. Hahn. Now back to you in the studio, TJ.
Man, that's some real touching stuff. Thanks a lot, Lauren and Mr. Hahn. Now let's head to Irfan for some great commentary.
Thank you, TJ. Good evening, my fellow Americans. Let me take a brief moment to talk about the congressional elections of 1866 and how it created anti-Johnson majorities in both houses. The election of 1866 was, in fact, a referendum election for Andrew Johnson. By the summer of 1866, Johnson had lost support within the Republican Party for his Reconstruction policies. After a failed attempt of some 7,000 delegates uniting at the National Union Convention, which met in Philadelphia on August 14th, which clearly displayed that Johnson had failed to bridge the growing gap between himself and the Republicans. His intentions were good. However, they were also interpreted as the opposite. His attempts at vigorously attacking his Republican opponents had ended up being a disaster. He had lost over 1 million supporters due to his swing around the circle tours, which ranged from Philadelphia to New York City. The anti-Johnson Republicans won 2/3 of both houses, thus sealing Johnson's doom and failure, which led to him giving his opponents enough power to override his programs and Johnson's policies. Good night. Back to you, TJ.
Thanks, Irfan, for that tasteful commentary. I would say it was quite poignant. Now, during his commentary, one of our producers informed me that local philosophers and historians have said that this Civil War is similar to a second American Revolution. Upon hearing this notion, I would fully agree. In both cases, part of the country wanted to secede and become their own independent nation. Multi-year wars followed, and much blood was shed. In theory, even though the outcomes were different, the Civil War we just overcame was just like our revolution. So that concludes this segment of the War in Review on the Bach News Network. Wait, I'm getting something. Hold on. I've just been informed that TV has not been invented yet. Looks like somebody's getting laid off. Signing off for I guess the last time. This is TJ Goldstoff saying, stay classy, America. Good night. This has been the War in Review, 1886 edition, on the Bach News Network.